Hello, everyone. My name is Rick Weiner, and before I tell you about brewery finance, let me tell you a little bit about the best beer that I've ever had and how it led me down this path. I don't remember the name of the beer. I remember it was a Hefeweizen. I remember I had it on a warm patio in Denver with a bunch of friends, and I remember it was the first time I had it's the first time I had a Hefeweizen. It was served in the proper glass, which I didn't even know what that meant at the time, and it was delicious. I knew that day that I needed a lot more of that kind of thing in my life, but I didn't need a bottle. I needed 5-gallon batches. Shortly after that, I found myself at the local homebrew shop where I befriended the owner, Kevin, and he started down the trail of homebrewing. At about a year or two later, Kevin started a small brewery next to his homebrew shop. It's called the Dry Dock Brewing Company. I used to be a house painter, even though I currently owned a finance company with my brother. When Kevin was finishing up his brewery, I offered my house painting skills in exchange for an open tab at his bar, which he was kind enough to grant me. So as I was sitting there enjoying the pay for my work, I looked down at the corner of the bar and saw the Brewers Resource Directory put out by the Brewers Association. As I thumbed through it, I noticed there was not a single finance company listed in the vendor directory. The next day, I found myself in Boulder, Colorado, introducing myself to the Brewers Association and introducing my new company, Brewery Finance. That was in 2005. I've had the privilege of working with breweries ever since, and the reason it is a privilege is because I love the industry and I love working with passionate and creative business owners. Brewery owners are by far and away the most creative business owners I have ever had the privilege of dealing with. So that being said, let's talk about creating and funding growth in a challenging environment. We all know that the craft beer landscape is more competitive than ever. We're seeing shifts in consumer preferences, rising ingredient costs, and a general tightening of the market. But that doesn't mean growth isn't possible. It just means we need to be smarter and more strategic about how we approach it. One of the smartest ways to grow isn't always about making more beer, but making your current operations more efficient and your taproom experience more compelling. This could be through targeted equipment upgrades or enhancing the customer journey. So I'm just going to give you some examples of what I've seen our customers do over the last year or so, and we'll talk about them. And at the end of all this, we'll be more than happy to take some questions. With regards to the customer experience, I have seen customers refresh their tap room or add a pop-up extension. We have helped customers get beer trailers that could be used for branding, farmers markets, festivals, private parties. I've even seen them rent them out at weddings. They are eye-catching, always advertising, and relatively affordable, especially as a DIY project. Some of our customers have hosted some unique events that engender goodwill in the community. One recently we had in Denver was a pet adoption event. It packed the brewery. Nobody can walk by a puppy. I can't walk by a puppy without purchasing a beer. A pet adoption event, health screening events, we've seen those. Food drive for a local food bank. Another local brewery in Denver recently had a food drive. Customers would bring in 2 or 4 cans of non-perishable food. They brought in a tamale kitchen who provided, when you would go to the bar and you'd give them your canned goods, they would give you a ticket. You'd get a free tamale from this tamale kitchen, and you'd get a discount on their beer. The place was absolutely packed. The food bank was a winner. The tamale kitchen was a winner. They got tons of advertising out of it, and the brewery made a whole bunch of new loyal clients, I'm sure. Do you have extra space in your brewery that isn't in or around your brewery that isn't being utilized? Could you add an adult playground, a kids playground, controversial topic these days? Could you throw in a dog run to get people to sit there longer with a little bit of shade? Cornhole tournaments, gaming tournaments. We've seen all of this with our customers, or not necessarily all of our customers, but breweries in general. Examples of efficiency upgrades we've worked on recently. CO2 recapture systems. I know these come with an upfront cost, but there is going to be savings on CO2. There's potential profit in selling the CO2. Not a customer of ours, but a local brewery here sells their excess CO2 that they have harvested to cannabis companies. Most importantly, I think you'll get some goodwill by going green, and there's potential for good media coverage. Certainly a great thing to brag about on your social media, how you're working well with the community and with the environment. Could any of your current equipment, without purchasing new equipment, use a tune-up? Could it be upgraded in some way to become more efficient? Infrastructure upgrades. How about an energy audit in your facility? Breweries are usually big spaces with lots of dead space. Could you update your light fixtures for something a little more energy efficient? Are you heating or cooling areas of building that don't need it? Do you have extra space that you could sublease to a business that is a good fit for the brewery? A friend of mine had a brewery with a bunch of land around it. They added a disc golf course in their field, and to accommodate that, they added a pro shop in their tasting room with all branded discs and whatnot. It was a great fit, and also kind of whimsical and fun. Another way we've seen customers and breweries in general be more competitive in this market is looking beyond traditional beer sales. This involves exploring diversification, whether that's non-alcoholic options, unique taproom events, or even leveraging your space for other community activities. It's about finding those underserved niches. So, non-alcoholic brewing, we all know what that's doing right now. It wasn't long ago that you could barely find a decent non-alcoholic beer, and now they've got an entire section at the liquor store. Yes, there's a higher cost of entry on that, but could you purchase the equipment and contract brew non-alcoholic beers for your neighboring breweries? Could it be done under a contract basis by one of your local breweries that is already brewing non-alcoholic beers? Can you expand into other markets using your existing equipment? Functional beverages are big right now. CBD infused drinks, kombucha, craft soda, cold brew coffee. Can you rent out your space for events, parties, weddings, corporate team building? I've seen breweries who host corporate team building events. The team comes in, they help with a brew, and I'm sure those employees of that business come back 2 or 3 weeks later and enjoy that beer and tell everybody they know about it. All right, data-driven decisions and financial acumen. Here's another way that it's really important. This is another area that's important to pay attention to. In this challenging environment, understanding your numbers is deeply paramount. Smart growth relies on making data-driven decisions, from forecasting demand to optimizing your financial planning. So my pointers here, if there are any: talk with your CPA or your CFO regularly. Be realistic with your projections. Keep good records and review them often so you can identify negative or positive trends quickly and act accordingly. Keep a reliable finance partner on your speed dial so you can take advantage of opportunities when they arise. If you have partners, I recommend you regularly touch base with them. I'm talking about partners in the brewery. If you have partners in the brewery, I recommend you regularly touch base with them regarding their credit. Don't get caught off guard when you apply for financing. I know it's tough out there right now. A lot of brewers aren't paying themselves the way they should be or wanted to be, and that can often have an impact on personal credit as well. When you go to finance your brewery, an expansion or whatever, personal credit's going to be looked at. And so just don't get caught off guard. These are just a few areas where we see successful breweries adapting. And I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into these, whatever else comes up, with Andrew in the audience today. So with that, Andrew will turn it over to any kind of questions that we might be able to answer for folks.
Hey, Rick, always enjoy the conversations with you.
Thank you. Likewise. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So you started telling us about a Hefeweizen that you enjoyed that kind of impacted your career. Are there any beers or beverages you've had recently that really stood out to you? You don't have to say the brand name if you don't want to, but is there anything that you're just really impressed by, or styles or types?
You know, there's a brewery down the street from me. I live in Loveland, Colorado now. And the Loveland Brewery, so I will name them because they're doing a great job. They clean their beer lines regularly. They have it posted on the wall when they clean them. The staff is so welcoming. This is a perfect example of a brewery that is making things work right now. As a matter of fact, the street that they're on is kind of the main street in downtown Loveland. is undergoing all kinds of insane construction. So they jumped on an opportunity to turn their backyard into basically a concert venue.
Cool.
And they did a great job. So that's just a little aside. They had a pickle fest the other day. It was a couple months ago.
Everybody's talking about Pickle Fest these days. I don't know.
I missed it, but I have tasted some of the beers since. Not many of them because they sold out, and there was a line of people around the block trying to get in there. So I would never imagine myself drinking a pickle beer. Certainly not when I had that Hefeweizen. But yeah, they're doing a great job.
No, I love that because like half of what you just said wasn't even about the beer.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's truly talking about the experience we created. And you mentioned like earlier on, people looking for funding, whether it's for, maybe a canning line or who knows, maybe a kid's playground. So there's all these things people are doing to create that overall experience. So kind of like diving into a question I have, how do small breweries capitalize on some of the opportunities you discussed, and what kind of financing is available for small businesses right now?
Sure. Yes, that's a great question. Thank you. So this is what we've seen. Again, brewers are creative. And so there's a lot of other ways to get things done. But this is what I see pretty much on a regular basis. And I don't do all of these different types of financing, do some of them. But I would start with, I think most business owners, when they're looking for money, they're probably going to go to their bank. And that's still a great option right now. The thing to be aware of that is that banks are tightening a lot, not just banks, but a lot of just lenders have a lot of breweries in their portfolio now. 20 years ago when I started brewery finance, I think there was like 900 breweries in the country, and there's over 9,000 now. So a lot of these lenders have breweries in their portfolio, and a lot of those portfolios, unfortunately, are seeing a lot of stress. So banks aren't as open to working with breweries as they have been in the past, which is not to say they will not do it. But that's going to be your cheapest source of money. They'll provide equipment financing. They'll provide working capital, real estate. The problem is, or not the problem, what you need to be aware of is that it's going to take a while to work with your bank. They're going to do a lot of due diligence. They're going to get all up in your financials, and they're most likely going to put a blanket lien on all of your assets. Totally fine if you believe in your vision, which I hope you do, and totally fine if you're okay and your spouse and your kids and everyone are okay putting everything at risk. But that's probably going to be the cheapest source of money, probably also the most difficult. There's equipment leasing, equipment loans, rental. So that's what we do quite a bit of, equipment financing. If somebody needs an upgrade if somebody needs to upgrade their chiller, if somebody needs more fermentation capacity, or their canning line just isn't doing it, or they need a larger one, equipment financing or equipment leasing is a great option. You can get, in many cases, depending on how long you've been in business, up to $150,000 to $350,000 of equipment financing without people getting into your financials. It's quick, it's easy, it's going to be more expensive. There will be personal guarantees, but there won't be blanket liens on assets. It'll only be a lien on whatever you're financing. There's also, a lot of projects, building a playground. Maybe you can finance the playground equipment, but you're probably not going to be able to finance the labor and whatnot through an equipment loan. So there's working capital loans, short-term working capital loans, which are based on a little bit on your credit, but a lot on your cash flow. How much money are you bringing in versus spending every month, and can you afford a weekly or monthly payment for 12 or 15 months on that debt? And if you can, they can finance it like that. It's quick, easy. Again, no financials. They just need an application and your last 3 business bank statements. Typically on a working capital deal, if you've got an application in to your lender today, that could be funded by the end of the week. Let's see, friends and family, you still see a lot of that. People love investing in the breweries. You're kind of the rock stars of the neighborhood, and people like saying that they own a piece of the brewery. And what I love about it is you get built-in regulars once they've invested in your brewery too. So I see a lot of that. We used to see a lot of the crowdfunding thing. I don't see so much of that anymore. And a lot of breweries, they probably know this by now because they probably get phone calls left and right, but their credit card processors, those merchant cash advances, are a quick and easy way to get capital when you need it in a pinch. Again, those are short-term loans that are paid off by the credit card, the credit card processor taking a percentage of your daily haul from credit cards until the loan is paid off. Those are some of the more typical ways we see people financing this stuff. But I think the point is, just because your bank may not be a partner anymore doesn't mean that you aren't financeable.
No, that's really interesting there. Thanks for sharing those ideas. So, I mean, as we talk about, other ways to attract people and just, I mean, it's challenging out there right now. What are some additional unexpected or emerging diversification strategies you've observed breweries successfully implementing, Rick?
Sure. One of my favorite ones, we had a customer that has been around a long time and actually a pretty good sized brewery, but they developed an option to sponsor a sports team. And they basically had extra fermentation capacity, and they did a private label beer for this local sports team. It's gone really well. We provided them a working capital loan in order to pay for upfront ingredient costs, marketing, and a salesperson to market this. And it's been very successful for them. So I thought that one I really like. I like the idea, and this happens here in Loveland. It's a relatively small town, or at least it feels like it. And we have a summer concert series every Wednesday down at the downtown area in this little park. And 2 or 3 breweries here. That's what I love about Loveland. There's I can throw a rock at about 5 different breweries from my house. But 2 or 3 breweries here they bring their trailers or their tents or whatever down there, and they serve beers at these concerts. And what I love about it is the town is advertising these and advertising all their sponsors. The brewery's advertising it. They get a line of people there who probably never been into the brewery, and they get an opportunity to interact with potential consumers. I go down there every Wednesday. It's always a good time, and I always see a line of people at the brewing stand. So I really dig that. And of course, we've all seen this before, but providing a local restaurant with a private label beer or something like that, so they can pair their pale ale with their steak or their special whatever salad or whatever. I like that. You're basically adding a sales channel, right? You've got the restaurant who is advertising your beer to their customers, and of course they want to sell more of it because it's their private label beer.
Those are really good ideas. I mean, it's all about smart growth these days. I think you used a similar term earlier. So these are some neat ideas. How can a small brewery effectively explore niche markets without overextending themselves?
Yeah, I think because it's a risk, right? You don't want to invest in a whole bunch of equipment or a whole bunch of overhead for something small like this. But I think the thing is to start small, work within your community, work a couple doors down. I see a lot of people who want to go nationwide as soon as they open up their doors. I'm a big fan of a very deep puddle rather than a very wide puddle. So I would say start small. Just because you can sell 7 barrels of something doesn't mean that you can sell 50 barrels of something. Yeah, you got to build that market before you invest in a whole bunch of equipment.
Awesome. Now on to the next.
I'm sorry. I was going to say the other thing is you can contract the production out to like a contract brewer or something that's local. Just something that has a very low equipment requirement, and sure you get smaller margins, but a very low risk as well.
So speaking of, there are obviously risks that go with this. What are some of the most common financial pitfalls you see breweries fall into when trying to grow?
Sure. So along those same lines, kind of biting off more than you can chew. I mentioned this earlier when I said be realistic about your projections. I think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it in my own business, is seeing an opportunity and thinking, well, this is it. This is the one. We're going to jump all over this without really testing out the market or testing out the idea. So I would say don't bite off more than you can chew. People getting into distribution without really understanding the challenges and the competition and the pitfalls and the cost. And then, again, it all goes along the same thing, kind of keeping up with the Joneses. I have no problem going to a tap room and drinking beer there. That's where I want to be. I don't need to find your beer at every Kroger across the country.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had a thread recently in CBP, probably a couple months ago. I just simply posed the question, what innovative things are you doing right now? And a couple people responded that they were giving up distribution.
Sure,
Like,
sure. I actually read that. I read that with with intention, right? Because that was it was interesting to see what's going on there. And what I love about the CBP community is how open people are, right? I mean, a couple of years ago, nobody would say, "Don't do this, don't do that." I don't because they don't want to admit that they're not doing it or they're contracting or whatever. But I like how open it is.
yeah, I think the more we can learn from each other and see what's working, what's not working, just having these open conversations, the better it makes everybody, the more successful and ideas we all have.
Sure.
So
Agreed.
data is a term we're using so much more these days. So what key financial metrics should brewery owners be tracking most closely, especially in a challenging market like right now?
Sure, sure. I mean, I think the number one would be cash flow. Cash flow is the leading cause of business failure, or lack of cash flow, I should say, is the leading cause of business failure. Um, and this is, at least in my opinion, this is why so many businesses finance equipment rather than pay cash for it. It's taking that asset and spreading the ownership cost over 4, 5, 6 years, and that all helps with cash flow. Profitability metrics, net profit margin, which is the overall profitability of the brewery after expenses. That can help you identify areas where cost reductions might be necessary or revenue enhancements can improve the bottom line. And then, of course, revenue per barrel. I think that's that's an important one because you can see what's selling, what's not selling per barrel, and where you might be able to make some more money, maybe charge a little bit more. You can see if this batch is not performing the way it should be, and if you need to get rid of it, put something else on that's a little bit better seller or can sell for higher price point.
Yeah, those are great KPIs right there, Rick. So when is it time to consider a non-traditional finance partner?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, most people go to their bank first, and that's exactly what I would do too. There's a couple reasons people go to a non-traditional lender. Probably the first one is when the bank says no, or when the bank can't do this quickly enough for you. Like I said, just because your risk profile isn't bankable doesn't mean that you can't get financing. Banks are very, very tight. They have a credit window this small, where other lenders have a credit window this big. What you have to understand is when a lender has a window this small, they're taking very little risk, which is why they can charge a very low rate or a much lower. There's no such thing as low rates anymore, by the way, but a lower rate. When you have a larger credit window, you're taking a bigger risk, and so people charge for that. Another time to do it is when time is of the essence and you need to take advantage of an opportunity. You don't have time to wait. We all know solutions to problems in the beer industry can be expensive, and time is money. And sometimes you just don't have time to wait for the bank or wait for your investors to decide if they want to pitch in or not. Obviously, when you want to work with somebody who understands the industry, whether it's a bank or any other non-traditional lender, if they don't understand what a fermenter is and they're going to grill you for 3 or 4 days trying to figure out what the resale value of it is and why do you need such a big one and this, that, and the other, you're going to be pulling your hair out. At least what's left of it after you've been in this industry the last year or so. And then I think a big one, at least in my world, when you don't want to tie up all of your assets with a bank loan. I think, we all get into our business thinking that this is going to be it and we're going to be successful, and hopefully we all are. But I know right now I wouldn't risk, my house on it. And so I think there's ways of using other people's money without losing too much sleep at night. And I think that'd be one of the big reasons.
Good insights right there, my friend. So, as we wind down, I kind of want to rehash a question we somewhat touched on. What's the biggest mistake you see breweries make when attempting to expand?
So I would say this goes right in line with what we've talked about before. Too much too soon. Again, just because you can sell 7 barrels of something doesn't mean you can sell 50 barrels of it. Doesn't mean you can't, but I don't think you go straight from 7 to 50. I think overestimating the demand in a crowded market. And I think that goes right along with the distribution concerns that we were talking about on the forum the other day. And then the biggest thing, not having sufficient working capital. If you can't market your beer, if you can't pay your salespeople, I mean, the handwriting is kind of on the wall. And so protect that working capital. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. So if anyone's interested in exploring what you have to offer, what's the best way they can reach out and learn more?
Yeah, thank you. So our website is breweryfinance.com. If I could go back 20 years, I might name it something a little bit different so I could have a little broader scope right now. But that's the name of the company. We're going to be here till the end. So, or at least until my end. We can just email us at beermoney@breweryfinance.com. That's a general email. It'll go to me. I can disseminate it amongst our salespeople. And yeah, we're always here to answer questions, or call us and just chit chat and see, get our opinion on the market these days. Cause I would love to hear from more brewers. I don't know exactly what's going on either. So
we're all trying to figure it out together, and these conversations are great. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you believing in CBP and all we do. And thanks for the great conversation today.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. Thanks for the craft beer professionals. You guys are fantastic.
See you soon.
All right. See ya.
Bye.